The SEC just approved the closest thing to a US Bitcoin ETF you can buy. For now. The SEC has approved an ETF that tracks stocks with significant exposure to Bitcoin. These firms hold a majority of their net assets in Bitcoin or derive a majority of their profit or revenue from Bitcoin related activities. Bow chicka wow wow. This actively managed fund, Volt Crypto Industry Revolution and Tech ETF, was approved on October 5th. Ben, Ark, have they solved all the problems? You can't buy a Bitcoin ETF, but you can buy a ETF made up of Bitcoin company stocks. Everything is fixed.
It's such a bro name, isn't it? And they were saying in the article about how it took them forever, obviously, to get approval, and they were blaming the fact that they've got such a goofy name. But I think in reality, it's obviously the people are just trying to wrap their heads around more of a Bitcoin ETF. But they claim that they're going to invest 80% of their portfolio into Bitcoin revolution companies or something, or revolutionizing Bitcoin companies. So that's great. Hopefully, the Bitcoin infrastructure and ecosystem will get a big pump from that. And I think it's wise, because now is a good time to be investing in Bitcoin companies. But yeah, it's yet another milestone. We have an ETF which isn't cryptocurrency centric; it's Bitcoin centric. So we're narrowing down even further, aren't we, to eventually getting the ETF which just has Bitcoin, and then but yeah, it's very good and exciting news. Another milestone, and us marching into more of a Bitcoin friendly future.
Dan, Eve, there's been a lot of revolutions. They had a revolution during a revolution with a revolution. Will this company bring revolutions? Oh, Dan disappeared.
I pressed the wrong button. Like Wallace and Gromit's wrong trousers, but at least my video came on and I have my trousers as well. So we're talking about
trousers.
Are we on this is the ETF, right? The
Time
ETF?
to get an ETF full of Bitcoin related stocks instead of buying stocks. Hard.
I think that the most exciting time for me in Bitcoin was actually when it was like the March ETF hype of 2017, and it was just like everyone was on the edge of their seats for it, and it wasn't going to happen, and it didn't happen, but it was, the hype around that time was really crazy. But what makes me laugh is Gensler is dubious about a Bitcoin ETF because of market manipulation, and yet all around the world, I mean, obviously it's not specifically the US, but there's still money laundering from banks going on and fines left, right, and centre. The most recent one is a UK bank, NatWest, laundering over 400 million of funds from I think it was one specific company, which is like a jeweler or something, like a real an old school jeweler of like 100-year-old sort of company, and they actually received. They're one of the ones that received a 45 billion pound payout from the 2008 crisis, bailout, which is savage. They didn't, they could have taken that opportunity, having fucked up like a bad bank, naughty bank, having to bail out 45 billion. It's not a small sum of money. And yet they're still at their terrible ways of letting people launder money whilst pointing fingers usually at Bitcoin being used for nefarious activities. The NatWest did come out and said, we deeply regret it. And they went on a bit of a rant about it. And it just made me think of that South Park episode with BP in the oil spill, where he's like, we're sorry. We're sorry. We're so sorry. That's that thing. But anyway, Progressive Canada, of course, Canada have got they've got a Bitcoin ETF, and I'm not sure how long that's been in for, but they seem to be ahead of the game, a bit progressive. So there are obviously rumors that there will be one passed soon of a US ETF, but they may not be Trudeau. Trudeau, Canada.
Prime Minister humor.
No, I'll get my coat.
Dan's right. There is a Canadian ETF, and nothing bad has happened. Josh Shigala, we're creeping closer and closer to an American Bitcoin ETF so that people could invest their stock market and retirement funds almost directly into Bitcoin. What do you think about this Bitcoin stocks ETF offering?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that we're getting further and further away from Bitcoin, and this is what this seems to be the modus operandi of the SEC, rather than actually regulating the space. It seems to me like they're trying to protect something else, because when Coinbase offered their 4% for their clients to be able to take their money out of their banks and put into Coinbase and earn 4%, using all these DeFi instruments that they use, the SEC did a full smackdown on them, because how dare Coinbase offer 4%? And it seems to me like if you have an ETF directly linked with Bitcoin, it just widens the black hole from the legacy system into the modern system. So by them allowing you to have an ETF of a company, a pool of companies that accept this weird thing, it seems to me like they're not there to actually protect consumers from investing in bad things, but rather protect what they feel is the legacy system from this modern system that's bubbling up from the ground up. And this is unfortunate. You know, I think there's a lot of opportunity that's being missed out because the regulators are making the laws around what can and can't be invested in and used in the system. So I don't know. I mean, some would say that's their job. Others would say that they're doing their job badly. Some would say they're doing their job well. Who am I to say? But the fact of the matter is that we're getting further and further away from the crypto. And this, I feel, would have flown maybe a few years ago, but now it's so easy to invest in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, especially, that it's sort of useless. I mean, there are certain mandates on companies or initial contracts written up that they aren't allowed to invest in strange instruments, and they are allowed to invest in ETFs. So that would allow these companies. But a lot of these companies have even rewritten their initial paperwork to allow certain investments. So as I say, yeah, it's good. People should be able to trade what they want and make their own risk analysis. It's really important that society allows risk analysis, to teach risk analysis, because really that's what's missing. That's why scams happen. That's why people fall for scams, because they're not educated enough. So this is what needs to happen: more education and less banning whole sloths of society, or sloths of society, from investing in things. Rather, let's educate what scams look like, so that when OneCoin or BitConnect comes along, people go, oh, okay, hang on, this and this is a red flag. I'm not going to invest in that. And this is what the SEC really should be doing, is educating.
She's got huge tracts of land. But let's build on what Josh is saying. Go to the exit question. Should the SEC allow ETFs in America, or should they continue protecting the investors from the potential damages of an ETF? Ben, Ark, are investors ready? Are the companies ready? Is their private storage, their security, are they ready?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Yeah, it's ready. Everything's ready. Do it.
Dan, Eve, yes or no? Are they ready?
Do it. They're ready.
And Josh Agala?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Do it. Just do it. I mean, everyone in the rest of the world's doing it. So what America, what are you doing? Come on.
There's lots of
join the lemmings.
There's lots of access to Bitcoin, but there's not access for an SEC approved ETF yet. But it would be cool if they did it.